There is a saying that cannibals consume human flesh to survive. But imagine if human flesh became so popular that even we began to eat it with a knife. This is somewhat similar to what occurs in a particular meat shop located in France. In the heart of the city, a simple meat shop attracts a crowd of hundreds of people. The shop owner offers a special type of meat, which is so incredibly delicious that people are willing to pay any price for it. As days went by, neither the crowd of people diminished nor did the popularity of that meat wane. The meat's flavor was unforgettable for anyone who tasted it. One day, a customer inquired of the shop owner, Wilson, about the origin of the meat being sold. Wilson, not wanting to reveal the truth, lied and said that it was an Iranian pickup meat. Upon hearing this response, the news spread rapidly and widely, like wildfire, in the streets surrounding the shop. As a result, people's curiosity grew even more. The crowd at Wilson's shop increased significantly, to the point where the roads began to experience traffic jams due to the sheer number of people. People struggling to keep their shops open till yesterday were now earning lakhs. Meanwhile, large sweet factories were nearly shutting down because of this shop's sudden fame. However, it wasn't always like this. Just weeks ago, Winston's shop was deserted. Outwardly, Winston and his wife Sophie seemed to be doing well. However, the truth was that very few customers ever visited his shop. Winston had a habit of thoroughly massaging the meat before offering it for sale. He believed that this process improved the flavor of the meat significantly, but his customers thought it was simply revolting. One day, a group of activists stormed into his shop, splattering animal blood all over the sofa and assaulting the Zip Zencent. There are certain individuals who harbor intense animosity towards those who consume or sell meat. These individuals are known as vegans. Vegan activists frequently targeted and vandalized Winston's shop, causing it to fall into debt. One day, this guy visits his friend Mark at home. Like Winston, Mark was in the meat business, but his situation wasn't like Winston's. He had a successful shop. When his mother learns that Vincent's shop was attacked by vegan activists, she gives him a referral and advises him to keep it until he boosts security. This way, the activists will think twice before attacking again. Due to financial strain, tension between Sophie and Vincent was rising. Sophie even suggests divorce, but Vincent asks her to stay calm. Meanwhile, he notices a vegan, the activist who attacked his shop, is to blame. Vincent wanted to teach him a lesson by knocking him down. However, as he reverses his car, the activist unfortunately gets crushed beneath it and dies. Winston is about to call the police for assistance, but Sophie prevents him, arguing that they have committed murder, and no one would believe their story. Sophie then comes up with a plan to dismember the body and dispose of the parts in various locations. This idea she got from a serial killer. She even considers the possibility of blending the remains with pig meat and selling it, but Winston stops her from proceeding with that plan. They bring his corpse to their shop, and Winston starts cutting it into small pieces to dispose of it. Meanwhile, his ear gets cut off, falls down, and his dog eats it immediately. After hours of grinding and cutting it, Wilson dozes off and falls asleep. The next morning, he wakes up late, but when he looks at the table, he finds that Amit is not there. He gets very nervous. Before he can think of anything else, a customer comes to the shop and asks him for the same mitts that she had bought a while ago. It turns out that Sophie had mistakenly sent him human mitts instead of Picky's mitts. The woman liked it very much. Wilson forbids her from buying the meat, but the woman was unable to forget its taste. Unaware of the fact that it was human meat, Sophie started arguing with Wilson to sell it, after which Wilson had to sell it. To hide the truth behind its unique taste, Winston had to lie that it was Iranian pickled meat, which very few people in the world can prepare. Once the customer leaves, Winston tells Sophie he still likes human meat, which Sophie doesn't find odd. In fact, he believed this was the best way to dispose of the dead body. Winston felt he had lost his mind. He went to discard the mitt, but another man arrived, also wanting the same Iranian pop the woman had taken earlier. Gradually, that dead body became known as the Iranian mitt, and he made a lot of money selling both. Yet, he still doesn't get why people like it so much. One night, he tries it himself and finds it to be the best meat he's ever had. Sophie mentions the person they killed was vegan. These people avoid meat and animal products. Maybe that's why his meat was so delicious. She suggests, why not kill these vegans and sell their meat in our shop? People seem to like it, and we could make a lot of money. But Wilson stops her, saying she's talking about selling her humanity for money. The next day, his daughter Chloe brings her boyfriend Locust to meet them. Vincent had been eagerly waiting for this day. On that particular day, she had put in a lot of effort and cooked a really delicious meal with her own hands. However, when she serves it to Locust, he outright refuses to eat the dinner she had prepared with so much care. Wilson then notices that the others, who are also not very lively, follow Locus's lead. Observing her, everyone decides not to eat the meal, and both of them walk away from there. Witnessing this, Wilson's anger rises because that girl has managed to destroy his entire day's hard work in just a moment. He comes to the conclusion that Sophie was indeed correct. These vehicles should be completely eradicated from the world. On that particular night, both of them decide to visit a Vigne restaurant. They choose the owner of the restaurant from among the many Vigne people present there. The plan was straightforward. They needed to kill him, then chop him into pieces, grind him, and sell him. As they follow him with the meat-cutting knife, just when they are about to attack, his body begins trembling with fear. Overcome by this fear, he runs away from the place without carrying out the killing. Sophie mentions needing more practice, so the next day he acts as a vegan activist's beach advocate. Among many, he searches for the most vulnerable target. Throughout the day, he encounters various individuals. Eventually, he meets a slender man who values his dedication and passion for animals. Sophie had located his target. He invited the man to the parking area, pretending he wanted to talk. As planned, he began contemplating various ways to kill him. However, his plan was thwarted again when he noticed the thin man arrived with friends. Wilson quickly hides his knife and begins to leave, but those people stop him. They tell him that today they are planning to attack a meat shop and insist he join them. Afraid of being caught, both Wilson and his companion reluctantly decide to go along with them. Soon, they realize that the shop targeted for vandalism belongs to their friend. Vincent was secretly running another business within his successful enterprise. To damage his business, they vandalize the shop and destroy everything inside. Doing this made his heart feel relaxed because he wasn't the only one who suffered a loss. As they were thinking about their plan, things were getting more complicated. Soon they both stop agreeing with each other and start arguing. Things go so far that Wilson leaves her. Finding Sophie alone, a boy tries to flirt with her. He talks to Sophie, and Sophie is quickly impressed by him. Everything was going well between the two when Sophie finds out that the boy is a vegan. He drops her at her home, and on the pretext of kissing her, kisses her on the sofa holder. However, when it bites us, it leads to bleeding. Sophie requests him to enter the house for first aid and informs Wilson that they have located their target. Winston's task now was to kill her, but his hands begin to shake once more, and he declines. Sophie warns that if he doesn't kill her, she will spend the night with her. Despite this, Winston still lacks the courage. He assumes it's just to incite him, but Sophie genuinely proceeds to become intimate with the girl. Witnessing this, Wilson's anger rises rapidly, and now there was absolutely no doubt about his courage. He leaps onto that boy, and in a very brutal manner, ends up killing that poor guy. The following day, Sophie receives a call from Stephanie, who was in tears, explaining to him the dire situation of her shop. Both of them decide to go immediately to her mother's shop. Windsor, all by himself, had caused such extensive damage to her shop that even if all the vegan activists had come together, they wouldn't have been able to do so much harm. They act as if they are completely unaware of anything that had happened. During that time, a policeman expressed a desire to have a private conversation with Vincent. Vincent felt extremely frightened at first, fearing the worst. However, it turned out to be quite different from what he had imagined. Realizing that the policeman was unaware of the actual situation, Vincent felt a wave of relief wash over him. On that particular day, he managed to sell those human masks to numerous customers. There was such a long line of people waiting to purchase them that all the meat was sold out within just a few minutes. Following this, whenever they required meat, they would venture out to hunt. This eventually led them to start killing dairy people, and thus their business took off. The economy was experiencing significant growth, and before long, numerous large meat factories found themselves nearing closure. In just a few weeks, Winston decided to raise the price of meat as well. However, the crowd of people continued to gather without any pause. Everything appeared to be perfectly normal. One day, Mark decided to taste that meat, and as expected, he too became quite fond of it. But then, while chewing, he felt something stuck in his teeth. Stepp, who had previously worked as a nurse, identified it as a pacemaker, a device used for heart patients. Winston recalled that one of their victims had suffered a heart attack while trying to escape, and they had neglected to check for his pacemaker. Stepley starts questioning him regarding the job. As these two friends are also rivals, their discussion soon escalates into an argument and quickly turns into a fight. In a sudden fit of anger, Winston bites the ear of the Marquis. That day, their pretentious friendship is shattered, but this action was going to be very costly for him in the long run. The following day, Winston attends a weekend festival. He had turned into a psychopath due to consuming human flesh. He would spend the entire day just thinking about the maid. That day, he saw a child and even considered killing and eating him. He controlled himself and felt disgusted. He was leaving the festival when he was shocked by the loco. He was surprised to see people running the butcher shop at the fake festival. Then, he tells Seth about the murder of fake people. The deaths of weaklings had become such a common occurrence in the city that Lucas started to think butcher shops were behind these deaths. Upon hearing this, Wilson begins to argue with Lucas, questioning, Do you really think we are responsible for all these crimes? There was a man sitting nearby, listening to their conversation. This was the same man who had been involved in a fight with Wilson at the butcher shop. He becomes extremely angry when he realizes that Winston had been pretending to be a butcher. On that very same night, while Winston was busy grinding meat, there was a knock on his door. Winston noticed that it was a policeman, and out of fear, he decided not to let him in. He tried to divert the policeman's attention. Then, suddenly, his eyes caught sight of his dock, which was approaching the door with a human hand in its mouth. Wilson quickly drove the dock away, and that night, he narrowly managed to avoid being caught. Later, Wilson informed Sufi that all the butchers in the city were on the police's list of suspects. Parshufi had no fear of getting caught because he had cut and sold everything. When there was no evidence, how could the police investigate? As they were having a conversation, Locust comes there, feeling quite embarrassed due to his inappropriate behavior at the festival. He expresses how stressed he is about the disappearance of his VIP friends. However, Sophie, who now feared no one, suggests to Locust that they make them their next target. At this moment, Winston realizes that Sophie is even more of a psychopath than he is. After that, he requests Locust to leave the place. The following day, he informs the customers who visited the shop without consulting Sophie that they have ceased selling Iranian power. Upon hearing this news, some of the customers became extremely upset, as they had been waiting in line for hours for their turn. As a result, the shop quickly became empty. Witnessing this, Sophie began to yell at Winston, questioning why he had made such a statement. Winston decided it was not appropriate to engage in a conversation with her and chose to exit the shop without providing her any explanation. After he left, those wagoned activities arrived at his shop. They sought revenge on Winston for his betrayal. They captured Sophie and beat her severely. These were actual thugs at the activists' beach. When Winston returns, he notices their fan present. He quickly enters the shop and discovers the goons are about to kill his wife. He wastes no time attacking, killing two instantly. Perek hangs Vincent on a meat hook. Just as he's about to kill him, Sophie regains her senses and kills Perek by stabbing a sharp hook into his eye. At the movie's end, we're shown that Sophie and Vincent were swiftly caught due to Marco Safei. They were the first to report Vincent's odd behavior to the police, which later proved to be a big evidence against them. Vincent and Sophie had committed a total of 30 murders, due to which they were sentenced to death, and this is where the movie ends. I hope you liked this story. Thank you for watching.